Why is this so far away?
Hey everyone, in today's video I'll be discussing with you guys how to consistently win more games in Fortnite. Seems like there's a lot of you out there that still struggle to win games consistently. Sure, you get wins every now and then, but the ability to consistently win games separates the men from the boys in Fortnite. Some of you may argue that getting kills is more important than getting wins, and to some degree that argument is true, but the main objective in every battle royale game is to be the last person standing. Throughout today's video, I'll be covering the following: how to choose the best drop, my formula for a win, 3 mistakes to avoid during the game, how to build your game stamina, and how to win endgames. These 5 topics cover an entire Fortnite game if you were to break it down from the time you jumped off the battle bus. As always, I recommend watching the video all the way through because there's going to be a lot of information to take in. And at the end of the video, my goal today is to get you guys to win games every time you play Fortnite if you don't already do so. Even if you're an experienced Fortnite player, you may learn something from this video. Comment down below and tell me what you struggle with the most in Fortnite, and let's get right into it. Choosing where you drop can determine how the rest of your game goes, and if you're playing for wins, you want to be guaranteed a fighting chance against your opponents when you drop. Taking on 50-50 drops every game to try and get more kills isn't consistent, and you might find yourself getting killed all because you didn't have a weapon, or your enemy looted a chest and got shields and a more powerful gun than you did. To avoid this, follow these steps to determine how to choose the best landing spot every game. Step 1. Choose a medium populated drop or a low populated drop. If you're someone who likes to fight in the early game and doesn't want to farm materials for 10 minutes before they see their first fight, then choosing a medium populated drop is the best fit for you. Medium populated drops are drops that you can find towards the middle and end of every battle bus drop. These drops offer weapons, materials, and other players to fight as well. Your drop should be determined specifically on the availability of loot and materials. If your weapons and materials are consistent, you'll have consistent success in game. Low populated drops offer the same thing without the risk of having to fight other players. For those of you who really want to win badly, landing at places on the outskirts of the map toward the end of the battle bus drop will offer a low populated start to your game, all while having an extremely high amount of materials and weapons to choose from. Step 2. Choose the spot with the most materials. You can win every early game fight just by having more materials than your enemies do. Even if your enemy has a more powerful loadout than you do, you can increase the likeliness of your survival in that fight, all because you're stacked on materials. When I drop, I usually land at spots that are surrounded by easy access materials, usually wood at the beginning of the game. This allows me to survive early game even if I have a poor loadout compared to my enemies. Now that you've chosen the best drop based on these aspects, let's go over my formula for a win. My formula for a win starts off with a surplus supply of health, materials, and ammo. Whenever you leave the location you landed at, this should be the time to start stacking up your ammo, materials, and even weapons you may not have gotten when you originally landed. One of the worst mistakes experienced Fortnite players and even new Fortnite players make is not having any materials or ammo to continue on in their games. After I land and clean up the opposing players, I immediately start to stack up on everything I possibly can. This is one of the most tedious aspects of the game, but it's a pro tip that not many YouTubers talk about because it's a simple aspect of the game that's often overlooked. Whenever you see an ammo crate, don't run by it, loot it, and whenever you run by an unbroken tree, start to farm it. I know this is old news, but there's a lot of you guys out there that don't take the time to do these things and you don't even realize it. But even using my simple formula can't prevent you from making poor decisions throughout the game. Now that we've gone over the initial drop and what you should start to do towards the mid game, let's start to go over the 3 common mistakes that all players make that prevent them from winning consistently. The first mistake is dangerous rotations. Dangerous rotations start with tunnel vision and not realizing the various spots that other players can be at, which will put you in bad situations. There are a lot of hills and mountains in Fortnite, and when you run next to one or in the middle of a valley, you instantly put yourself at a disadvantage and now have to try and recover after being pinned down. Rotations should be strategized and thought out before moving. I often recommend that you guys stick to the outskirts of the zone towards the edge of the circle because this will give you the opportunity to view the map differently. You'll get an outside view looking in and you'll be able to spot things differently than you normally would if you're in the middle of the zone. For example, when you run on the outside of the circle, you eliminate a 4th angle that won't be in your vision. Another example, if you're in the middle of the map, you have 4 different directions you have to look in: your right side, your left side, behind you, and in front of you. If your left side is almost touching the storm, you eliminate one blind spot and therefore have a less of a risk of not seeing your enemy, and you have a wider field of view. Second major mistake a lot of players make is not rotating fast enough. As soon as that next zone shifts, the first thing every player should do is start to think about where they should be next. The reason for this is because your success in the end game can be determined simply on a mid-game rotation that could save your life. I've often seen it happen before, where the other player or team that rotates first to the high ground is at the best position possible. But having high ground isn't the only advantage you may lose out on if you don't rotate fast enough. A lot of you guys complain about losing games due to the third party, and while the third party is inevitably going to happen, it can be prevented and the chances of it can be decreased significantly. When players rotate, they'll run into each other as they move towards the next zone. If you reach the zone before other players, you'll avoid getting trapped outside of the circle and fighting multiple players or other teams, thus preventing the third party. The third common mistake is third partying fights blindly. Speaking of the third party, it's actually possible to get yourself killed simply by pushing a fight that has ended with players who are really weak still. You might be able to pick up 1 or 2 eliminations from that fight, but there's sort of a domino effect that's going to happen if you put yourself in situations like these. You'll be in the fight, and you may even get hit a few times and have to heal. Now out of nowhere, a third enemy comes in a third party, and now a fourth, and maybe even a fifth. If you charge third parties blindly, you'll get shot in the back, lose great positioning, and have to fight more players than you originally wanted to. If you do get into a third party fight and start a build fight, now you're burning through materials, which is pretty unnecessary. When and if you guys do third party, stay patient, keep your distance, and always be ready for another player to come up from behind you. We're going to move into how to build your game stamina. Games typically last anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes, and because of this, you may actually start to get mentally fatigued and not even realize that this is the cause of bad playmaking. I found myself after 4 solid games of being awake and playing consistently for 20 minutes at a time that I was getting mentally tired, and there needed to be a way to fix this in the middle of my game so that I could play better. With this being said, there's a simple way to do this, and it starts with relaxing during downtime in games. No matter what you do, you'll usually have anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes total of downtime in game. How I relax is sit back in my chair and take a few deep breaths until I find another player. It seems too easy to be true, but it works for me, and I want you guys to try it too. I've told you in previous videos to lean in while you play, and this will definitely increase your performance, but can also tire you out pretty easily. So with this being said, try my method out and let me know how it goes. Another way that you guys can relax is during your lobbies. You guys can sit back, relax, maybe change your locker a little bit, get some new skins on, and you'll definitely have some time there to relax. We're now approaching our final aspect of winning games consistently, and that is consistently winning endgames. Endgames are crucial and where a lot of your money will be made, because the final battle that takes place will determine who walks away a winner and who walks away a loser. A lot of you guys still tend to choke in these situations, so I'm going to be giving you some tips to play better. My first tip for you guys is to start gathering last minute materials and HP if possible. In the final moments of the game, you may find yourself low on materials, health, ammo, and maybe even a strong enough gun to finish the job. If you're consistently stacked with materials, you'll consistently win endgames. My second tip for you guys to stay consistent in endgames is to try and stay on the high ground, but don't get too high in the air. The reason behind this is because you have a wider angle on everything, you can see more when you're in the air, and you also will have different places you can make on your enemies this way. My final tip for endgame survival is to take less risky shots. It really does come down to the wire in endgame, so if you take on less risky shots and plays, you'll survive longer. I hope this video helps you guys out in getting more wins. If it did, drop a comment down below and tell me about it, and use my code YTRebus in the item shop, and I'll see you guys next time.